Hello, and thank you for viewing my presentation on academic writing guidelines. If you are in college, you might hear your professor or instructor say, write in third-person academic writing. And you might think to yourself, what exactly is that? Well, we are going to introduce you to the concept here in this presentation. For the full viewing effect, don't forget to press the full screen icon to the bottom right of the screen. All right, let's get started. So what is academic writing? Academic writing uses formal language and more sophisticated vocabulary to express a particular perspective or point of view on a subject. For example, scholarly articles found in peer-reviewed journals are common types of academic writing at the college and university level. Basically, you're going to take your writing up a notch from what you did in high school, and we'll take a look at that here in a second. The expectations of college academic writing are slightly different from those learned in high school. For example, college writing expands beyond the 5-paragraph essay format. You might have learned that in high school, that you have an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. That's called the 5-paragraph essay format, which is fine, but the structure and the content get more sophisticated than that at the college level. All right, take a moment here to read these 2 writing samples. One is what would typically come from a high school student. The second is what we would like for you to aspire to and begin to write as a college freshman or in your college writing career. So pause the video here and take a moment to read these 2 samples. All right, let's take a look at the sample from high school. People who have a neutral perspective are able to see much more than those who do not. Neutrality causes one to be unbiased and unjudgmental, thus helping him/her observe much more from his/her surroundings. For example, it is crucial for a judge to remain neutral so that he/she can fairly understand both sides and resolve the conflict. If a judge was biased, then how many court cases would have unfair verdicts? Okay. First thing that jumps out is you do not want to write sentences with that awkward his, her, he, she construction. Do not do that. Secondly, this student could get a little more concise and precise with their wording so that they don't have to use as many words to get to their point. There is a way to write a bit more concisely so that you're using good vocabulary to get directly to your point without the wordiness that we see here in this sample. Let's take a look at the college freshman sample. Objectivity by researchers has not and probably never will be attained. People will always have biases. Some will be created by cultural values and others by personal views. The search for objectivity lies in the realm of philosophy, along with the search for reality. Even though objectivity can never be reached, people are better at making observations, discoveries, and decisions if they attempt to set aside their biases. In this sample, you see you do not have that awkward his, her, he, she construction. Secondly, the vocabulary here is a little bit more sophisticated. Notice they are able to get precisely to their point with a little bit fewer words because they choose good words and good vocabulary to express their point. So you want to write like this, a little bit more sophisticated style, using more sophisticated vocabulary, very concise. Also, there's a good deal of critical thinking here, meaning that the writer is expressing some really good thinking about their subject matter. So you see what you might have done in high school and what we want you to do in the college university realm. All right, let's move forward. Here's some guidelines for academic writing. Do not use first-person point of view. I, me, we, our, us, any of those first-person pronouns, do not use it. When we say third person, we mean pronouns such as he, she, it, they, You're writing it objectively, meaning you're not using first person because it's not a self-reflection paper. Think about research papers and think about articles you read in preparation for research. Most of those articles do not include I. They certainly do not include you. Most of the times they do not include we. But you want to avoid those first person pronouns or point of view. Never use you or your. Do not use second person point of view. Write your sentences so that you do not use you or your, and we'll take a look at that coming up in an example. Do not use phrases such as I think that, I believe that, I feel that, or in my opinion. Again, you do not want to use first person in your research writing or in your objective academic writing. Now, let me offer this disclaimer. If you're writing a narration essay, for example, and you're talking about your personal experience, then you have to refer to yourself as I. Don't refer to yourself as a person or one person. So if the essay assignment is for you to self-reflect or talk about your personal experiences, then you will use I. In most cases, if you are writing a research paper, a proposal, or a commentary, you will use third person academic writing. And this is the style we're talking about here. Do not use slang, colloquialisms, or other informal diction. Words like, I need to get some cheddar, or you know what I'm saying, totally, or seriously. Any of those slangy words, do not use it in your writing. Be precise and clear. Avoid wordiness, meaning avoid phrases like the fact that, at that point in time. In other words, play a role. You want to choose good vocabulary words to express the same point as you would in these wordy phrases, but with more sophisticated formal wording. Don't give readers commands such as be sure to or other similar imperative sentences. There's an understood you. Be sure to close the door. There is an understood you there. And remember, you do not want to use second person point of view. You might have to write imperative or command statements in a process paper, for example. But when you're asked to use third person academic writing, remember to avoid first person, avoid second person, which means do not use I or you or any related pronouns. All right, if you cannot avoid contractions in your writing, then spell them out. For example, do not write can't, but you should spell it all out. Cannot, C-A-N-N-O-T, for example. Do not begin sentences or phrases or clauses within sentences with any of the following words: as, it, in, there, this, that, they, thereby, if, when, while, with, because, through, with. Find a better way to begin your sentences. All right, do not use that when referring to people. The pronoun who refers to people. Remember that. Do not use these words: need, must, should. For example, these words imply that you are giving instructions to your reader. And remember, if you're giving instructions, then you're giving commands, right? That's an imperative with an understood you. You do not want to use second person, so avoid those words. Use to be verbs sparingly, such as is, are, was, were. You want to avoid she had been working hard all day. You want to use the active tense and say she worked hard all day. So use forms of be sparingly. Do not make announcements such as this paper will, in this paper I will, or in the article, or in the essay, etc. Don't write that. So write your sentences so that we get your point without you having to announce what you intend to do by using these phrases. Never use words that seem uncertain, such as could, might, may, maybe, probably, etc. Do not use passive voice in your writing. Be concise and clear. Passive voice makes the sentence too wordy. Passive and active voice. If you need practice on that, then do find some online exercises so that you can be really clear on what we mean by active and passive voice. voice. For example, she had been yelling at her child all day. That's passive voice. She had been yelling. You could say she yelled at her child all day. That's active voice. So remember to use active and not the passive voice. Well, sometimes you may have to use the passive voice depending on the time period or time frame you're trying to discuss in your essay, but be active whenever possible in your writing. In chapter 4 of Cooleys Autobiography, it says that he was born out of wedlock. You might be thinking, well, what's wrong with that? Let's take a look at a better way to express this point of view. Chapter 4 of Cooleys Autobiography states that he was born out of wedlock. So take a moment to look at the differences in these two sentences. The second one is more fluid and more direct, and it is written in third person. All right, let's take a look at another example. In the restaurant, they gave me someone else's linguine. All right, here's a better way to express that. In the restaurant, the server gave me someone else's linguine. So here we are specifying the server instead of just saying they, which is very general and vague. Again, the second sentence is still in third person point of view. All right, here's another example. In the 14th century, you had to struggle to survive. Remember, we said we do not want to use second person you or your. So we need to rewrite the sentence so that we get across the same point without using you. Okay, in the 14th century, English peasant farmers had to struggle to survive. So notice we rewrote the sentence without using you. Here's another example. Unfortunately, since there are so many possible explanations, the correct one is most difficult to find out. All right, let's look at the better version. Unfortunately, since there are so many possible explanations, the correct one is most difficult to ascertain. So in the second one, you're using better, more sophisticated vocabulary. Instead of saying to find out, you mean to ascertain or to discover. So once again, this is where your good vocabulary comes in. All right, these exercises can easily be incorporated into an exercise routine, with each exercise done again a number of times. Can you hear the repetition in there? Let's look at a better version of this sentence. These exercises can easily be incorporated into a daily routine, with each exercise repeated a number of times. So we cleaned up the wording a bit there and made it a bit more concise. All right, you know what you need to do now? Rewind and watch this video again. That's right. The second time you watch it, why don't you take notes and pay attention to the third person writing examples we just did. Your writing instructor will greatly appreciate your efforts to improve in this area. I know I will. So watch the video again and get a really good sense of what we mean by third person academic writing. Thanks so much for watching and happy writing.